Sometimes the YouTube, oh, here we go. Now I'm live. Sometimes the YouTube live fails for some reason. So where are you from? Denver, Colorado? Let me see here. We're Alberta. Hi, Alberta. I've been to Calgary many times. Dallas. Hi, Dallas. 32 years married. My husband is Canadian. We were long distance while dating. Oof, I did that in Australia. I ended up moving to Australia. I was there for about 20 years. So my kids were born and raised. Toronto, Canada, Wisconsin, Illinois, California. Let me see. We'll get a fair few people here. I bought a Ninja Creamy. I don't know if you know anything about that, but a Ninja Creamy, it turns like a protein shake into a ice cream. And it's so unnecessary. I didn't need it. But anyway, I bought that. So I've just been playing with that this morning. I don't know if you know anything about that, but yeah, I love ice cream. So I'm making my own. It's all healthy. Probably tastes like crap, but it still looks like ice cream because it's spinach and carrots and all that kind of stuff and some protein powder thrown in. But anyway, I was just eating that. It was pretty good. Okay. I make soaps out of oils. Yeah, I love all that stuff. Love it. I used to make all of my own cleaning products and hair care products, body products. I made all that stuff for a long time. And then what I found was I wasn't using it fast enough and it would go off because it was all fresh ingredients. So then I was keeping it in the fridge and then I'd have to run out naked, run to the fridge and get my lotion. So I stopped doing that. I'll probably get back into it again. Okay, so let's get going. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's bratbusters.com. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. You got to give respect to get it. You're accountable. The kids are watching you, so they'll be accountable. That's how it goes. Okay, so parenting questions. Okay. Got a lot going on this weekend. My course, I've got my very first group coaching session tomorrow. And I'll open it to everybody in a couple of weeks, but it's just, tomorrow's my very first group coaching session. I'm really excited about it. Okay, I love your content. Advice on teen who doesn't want to go to school. That's a tough one. I get clients like that frequently. You can't get a teenager to do anything they don't want to do. All you can do is inspire them to make better decisions. And you use that with leverage, but it is tricky, okay? It's very, very tricky. You use my behavior board, you call it something like family law or something, just call it whatever you want, an accountability chart. Because with teenagers, a behavior board sounds a bit childish, but anyway, some people do that. It wouldn't bother me, but anyway. An accountability chart. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com, and you put down something like put dirty clothes in hamper and nowhere else. Do not address the school issue right away. Okay, you can't. You got to build up that respect. You're using reciprocity, so you're going to give them something. So you've got this behavior board, and you ask them to put their dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. Then you say to them, "What do you want from me?" So you each have a rule, and you each have a consequence, and you start there. By about the third week, I would suggest then you might address the school issue. Go to school. What do you want from me? You're negotiating all this stuff. See how it works. If you want my help with that, that might be a coaching issue. It's tricky. You have to build up your relationship, your leadership skills, and your mutual respect before you can address something that difficult. But yeah, okay. You have to put the age down. Your daughter says no from everything. Hi, South Africa. Says no to everything. Let's say and she cuts me off. Use the behavior board. If she's 3 and over, use the behavior board. If she's interrupting you, she has no respect for you. That's all it is. The behavior board has nothing to do with them. We're not fixing kids. We're fixing ourselves. We're setting ourselves up as calm leaders. You lead and they will follow. So yeah, she just doesn't respect you. Start with my behavior board, go from there. If you want my help with it, it just fast tracks it all, and you can hire me for coaching. How to address a 3-year-old saying no or I don't want to. X, going groceries or picking up. Example, going groceries or picking up. Does it matter what they say? Like, what I mean is, if we're going somewhere and if I had a 3-year-old who said no, I'd say, whatever, here we go. Like, we're going. You can physically overpower them. If you have to get somewhere, I would pick them up under my arm and get them into that car. I just would. They learn that if you say something, it's going to happen. It's not like they have a choice. And they're tiny. They're little. Okay. But I would give them some warning too. Say, we're going to be going out in about 5 minutes. You might want to put a timer on or something where they can see. So you're giving them some warning and you're letting them know it's going to happen. So, and make it happen. She's only 3. That was the 5-year-old says no to everything. I have to go back. If you could put the whole question down again. That's the 5-year-old. Let me think. Let me see. Yeah, that's the same one. Okay. But in future, if you always put the ages, because it's really hard for me to answer. Sometimes like if it's like a toddler tantrum, I'll know it's a toddler. My daughter says no to everything. When I ask her to do something, she cuts me off. That's the 5-year-old, just says she doesn't respect you. She's 5. You can start with the behavior board. You start getting respect that way. Do not put, don't cut me off. That's attitude. You do not address attitude. That takes care of itself once you start getting respect. The attitude just improves. It's just the way it is. That's like putting the cart before the horse. I want you to respect me. You can't. You got to work for it. You got to earn that. It's hard work. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it is easy. You're working to get it. It takes about 3 weeks if you're consistent and calm. So start with my behavior board. If you want my personal help, you can hire me on bratbusters.com. Behavior board's free. I just changed something in the course. I've had that same course basically written up the same way for probably 16 years now. And so someone said, well, I don't quite understand this. So I explained it. And then they said, I still don't understand it. And they've actually come back at me again. I still don't get it. So I did improve it. But it was funny because when I was trying to fix the course, it was this one where how you get 3 behavior boards going all at once. I was trying to fix it. Even I didn't know what I was talking about after a while. So I'm better at talking than I am at writing. But anyway, it struck me as quite funny. If I couldn't understand what I was saying, how the heck are other people supposed to understand it? But most people do. I mean, this was just someone who we all learn differently. I wasn't communicating effectively enough for everybody. So that was someone who just learns a different way, and my way wasn't working for them. Turns out I couldn't figure it out either. I knew what I wanted to say, but I'm looking at what I'd written thinking, what the heck? That's not what I was thinking at all. Okay. Oh, I have to chase my 4-year-old around the house when he doesn't come when I say he's fast. Advice? Yeah, that gets to be, I've heard of this before, many times, by the way. Sorry, it just strikes me as funny. I can just imagine you running around the house. It's really hard to look like a leader when you're running after your kids. Anyway, what I would do is start with the behavior board. You might not be able to solve that problem right away, but I would start with that one. I would say, when I tell you to come to me, like, I hate that, come when you're called, but you know what I'm saying. When I ask you to come over here to me, you don't run away. So I would put that on the behavior board. That's the rule. If they do, there's a consequence, right? You run, there's a consequence. Gee, I have one. I know what I would do with my kids, but I know the relationship I had and it would have worked. I don't know what kind of relationship you have, and it might seem a little bit too much. So I won't put that one in there. Yeah, my kids wouldn't have run, but if they did, I know exactly what I would have done. But they would have understood, hey, don't do that again. But yeah, I don't know where your relationship is. The thing is, if he's running from you, he doesn't respect you. All their behavior is just a direct reflection of your parenting. You can't change other people, including your kids, but you can change yourself. Set yourself up as a calm leader. You lead and they will follow. It's just the way it is. Their behavior changes once you set yourself up as a calm leader. That's all it is. That's all this is. Because think about it this way. I never changed one single kid. I've worked with hundreds of kids. Anyway, I've never changed one single kid, but I still got respect. They react to that. You lead, they will follow. They react to that. They react to someone who knows how to get respect. But I give it to get it. Anyway, just keep watching. Oh, my son keeps saying no all the time. It bothers you. That's why he says it. Well, obviously, if a 2-year-old kept saying no to me, I would be absolutely deaf. I wouldn't hear that at all. No way. Like, just ignore it. He's just doing it for attention. Yeah. Yeah, sort of. This is, so first consequence is to do something nice. If not, then 24-hour media blackout. Okay, so on the behavior board, everyone has a rule. Mom, dad, the kids, everyone has one rule. And then there's a consequence for everybody. If they break that rule, there's a consequence for everybody. The parents have one consequence. The kids have 2. The first one is a positive action. If they do something, if they break the rule, they have to do something like an action, a positive action, a helpful action, a nice action. But it's hard to get them to do something sometimes. So if they don't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation. You take something away. So it could be 24-hour media blackout. You're taking all screens away for 24 hours. Or I live downtown. Sorry. Anyway, or you take their Lego away for 24 hours. So you start with the positive action discipline. If they don't do it, then you resort to the negative deprivation. They will eventually learn it's their choice. Their choice. They didn't even have to break that rule. That was their choice. Oh, my kids hated it when I said that. If they ever I didn't use a behavior board, but if they ever did anything, I'd say, well, that was your choice. There's no TV tonight. That was your choice. It wasn't my action that caused that. They got that. They were like 3.5 to 4, and they were about 3.5. They were self-disciplining. They learn. At what age do you stop parenting? My son was probably about 20, and he said, "You're different." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I don't know." He says, "You're just sort of, you're more relaxed." I said, "Well, that's because I'm finished parenting." He was all grown up. It's when they've proved that they don't need it anymore. Like you know what I mean? Like parenting kind of, you're always the parent. You're always number one mom. My daughter and I are best friends. We live nearby downtown. We see each other pretty much every day. We go to the same gym. Like we're best friends. Anyway, but I still, if she's too close to the curb, I'll still put my arm out like that. And she goes, "Can you stop that?" And I said, "Never. I will always be mom first." So it never really ends. I never really told my kids what to do anyway, but I wasn't sort of watching them. Like you don't watch them intently. It's what they do now. It's none of my business, right? I don't tell them what to do. It's none of my business. But when they were younger, I might've said, "Hey, what do you think about that? You want to discuss it?" Whereas now I wouldn't say that. Well, they're older, right? They're like 28 and 32, 33 now. So yeah, it never really ends. They're always, as close as my daughter and I are as friends, I'm still mom. I still embarrass her sometimes because that's my job. That's what mothers are supposed to do. You're supposed to be embarrassing, right? Why do you always stress the word calm? Because if you're angry when you're disciplining, it makes you look weak and it's kind of mean. So this is how I look when I'm disciplining. I would go like this. "I'll tell you what we're going to do. I didn't like what you did. So there's going to be a consequence. What do you think that should be?" Now, how does that look? Would that get them on board? I never used a behavior board. I wanted my kids to come up with something. They'd say, "Oh, how about no TV tonight?" And I'd say, "No, that's too much. How about you brush my hair for 10 minutes? They never really did a lot, but if they did, it was like they kept me waiting or something like that. So, but yeah, it's calm. What does that do? Does it make me look like a leader? Whereas if I was to yell, "Hey, I didn't like that," what's the difference there? I want to treat them with respect. Calm. If you're yelling at them or if you get angry, that's very disrespectful. And it builds walls. It builds resentment. It builds rebellion in the teen years, especially. So yeah, calm is it's respectful. Okay. 20-month-old throwing a fit. Yeah, toddlers are crazy. I have a whole playlist on toddlers. Don't try and figure them out. They're going to do stuff, okay? Just restrain them. If they're getting violent, restrain them. I have some toddler courses on my website. There's a reason I only have 3 toddler courses because they're all explaining basically the same thing. Don't try and figure them out. They're crazy. They're forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got like just this little frontal lobe just starting to develop. That's that impulse control. They are driven by urges, not reason. And don't talk to them. It's consistent, corrective actions, not words. You can say one word, no, just to start the action. But consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. That's it. Don't try and make sense out of them. Child-proof your home so you can relax and enjoy them just like I did. There was nothing they could get into. Every time I hear mothers say, "How do you keep them out of the toilet?" They were playing, they were brushing their teeth with the toilet brush. And I'm thinking, how on earth would a 2-year-old have access to a toilet? Like, I just wouldn't allow that. Like I prevented a lot of problems. I just child-proofed my whole house. Easy. Never had to say no. It was easy. I need to learn to be more calm. Well, I won't read the rest because there's got a naughty word in there and this kid's watching. Go on my website and start with my behavior board. My website's bratbusters.com. And what it does is it teaches you what to do. It gives you a plan to get organized, to get a system in place. And you only do 1 rule per week. because if you were to have more, you'd get overwhelmed and it wouldn't work. You couldn't do it. I would go in, I'd address everything in day one because I'm level 10 with what I teach, obviously, and you're level 1 with what I teach. So you start with one rule per week and you enforce that. And then when you move the second week, you move on to another rule. Even if the first one, you're still working on that one, that's okay. Now you've got 2 because you're getting better at it. It's all about your leadership. We never fix kids, we fix parents here. I don't teach toddlering, I don't teach childing, I don't teach teenagering, I teach parenting. We're changing ourselves. We're becoming calm leaders for our children to look up to and respect. That's what we're doing. They need that. By the way, they need, crave, and want that. That's what's, okay, I said to myself when I started this live, I said, I'm not going to go on a rant. So I'm not going to go on a rant. Yeah. It's hard. I just wanted to. It's like, okay. We're so eager to see your children. We know they're adults now. Yeah, I keep them out of this because they've got their own lives. I choose to be on social media and my face is out there. I learned a lesson years and years ago when they were younger. I used to do a lot of TV. And people asked about what, and I think someone was looking for them or something, trying to figure out who they were. I just protect them. You know, you never know who's out there, right? So I protect them. Well, I don't protect them. They're 33 and 28, but you know what I mean? It's my choice to be on here. So I talk about them a lot when they were little because they don't care about that. A little bit about teenage stuff. Not my daughter, my son. My daughter's more private. She's just that way. She's got elegance about her. She's very proper. And, but my son's more like me. Yeah, say whatever you want, but I'm still very protective. I don't like to, it's just different. You understand, you protect your kids, right? Okay. Oh, we love you, Lisa. Thanks so much. Someone said to me, they said, we saw you walking down the street the other day. And I said, why didn't you say hi? And they go, I don't know. I said, have you ever seen me walking down the street? If you can catch me, I walk like that fast. But anyway, if you can catch me, say hi if you see me on the street. Years ago, like I just said, I used to do a lot of media work and a lot of people would recognize me. I think that's one of the reasons I stopped doing it because it just got awkward in the streets, because it was a lot of local media work. So they get to know you. Anyway, so you know what people would say to me all the time? Hey, you're that Bratbusters lady. Yeah, I am. Tumbleweeds. Like they didn't say anything after that. It was just, what am I supposed to say? It just got awkward. And I'm a talker. I can talk to anyone, anywhere. But it was like this really, it just put me in a really awkward, hey, you're Bratbusters. Yeah, I am. Okay, have a nice day. It was just awkward. Isn't that weird? Like awkward. What do you say? Yeah, I am. Or they'll say, oh, I saw you on TV this morning. Yeah, I was on there. Okay, gotta go. Okay. Teenage one, I love teenage. Teenagers are my favorite age. That's how I started my business. Was mostly dealing with teen crisis. Shoot, now I lost it. I was yabbing too much. Now I have to go back too far. Oh, I'm getting sick. I get nauseous. I can't. It was a teen question. I can't go back. I start to get nauseous. Anyway, okay. Can you please explain mini therapy session and why they're detrimental? Okay. I got to think of a succinct way to say this without going on like a lunatic, like I do every single day on here. The mini therapy sessions, they're done by the pleaser parent. It's a style right now. It's very, very trendy. And it's all to feed the mom, make her feel good. It's not for the kids. It's for the moms. Now those were their big feelings and big emotions. The thing is, I know where they're headed. You can have an easy kid and do anything and it's going to be fine. But most kids with this is where it heads. You become the pleaser. You want to roll out the red carpet. You want to validate all their feelings, all their big emotions. You're not preparing them for the real world. Generally, the type of young person that can potentially raise is a self-entitled snowflake who has no concept of the real world and often has mental health issues because not the whole world isn't asking about all their feelings and big emotions. They're not rolling out the red carpet. You want to prepare your kids for the real world. The mini therapy sessions are discussing when they've just had a tantrum and there's no way I would discuss that. You don't need to validate every single feeling and emotion. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm trying to think of why you would do that. I don't even know. I put my energy toward the positive, not the negative. I focused on the positive with my kids. The negative was like fast. Didn't like that. Consequences, no TV tonight. Do you understand? Yep, sorry, mom. Bang, done. There's no way I would discuss the feelings behind what they just did. They already get it. That's how they learn. They get it. They learn through consequences. They learn through being accountable. They also learn the whole world isn't going to cater to their every little whim. Like you just see these young adults, you didn't validate all my feelings. I'm just the bus driver lady. Like they're so fragile. They're so sensitive. And their self-esteem's in the toilet because they got nothing to be proud of. They've just had everything handed to them. Anyway, it's a real trend. I'm exaggerating, by the way. They're not all going to turn out like that, but that's what I said 20 years ago. I said, that's what's going to happen. Sure enough, mental health crisis with young people. Gee, like I couldn't see that one coming. That's when that trend came out, that, catering to their every thought, every wish, giving them participation awards. How stupid is that? You didn't give me an award. I'm just the checkout lady here. I mean, like you want an award for getting groceries. They want an award for everything. They sneeze. You didn't say gesundheit. This self-entitlement, it's just, they're so fragile. And it's just not preparing them for the real world. Not at all. I got a lot of stories about that too. I won't bother telling you, but you can just imagine. But yeah, that's the mini therapy sessions. It's very common. It's discussing all their big feelings and big emotions all the time. You get down on their level, you say things like, use your words. Oh, I hate that. They are using their words. They are communicating in their world. Don't tell a toddler to find their inner adult. That's what you're doing when you get down on their level and say, use your words. It's so patronizing. It's mean. They are using their words. You communicate with children in their world, not in yours. You find your inner child to connect with them, to communicate with them. Don't expect them to find their inner adult. It is patronizing. It's unfair. It's unreasonable. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I did go on a rant. Sorry about that. Keep saying I'm not going to do that, and I do it every single day. Okay. What do you think about a board jar with activities they can do when bored? I think that's a great idea. Very creative. Yep, I think it's a great idea. One little caveat here is I would say, if my kids both said, I'm bored, they must have been at a friend's house and heard it there because they'd never said it before. They both said it probably around the age of, I don't know, 5, 7, or 8 or something. And they only said it once, and I'll tell you why. Because I wanted them to learn to sit with themselves and learn how to entertain themselves. So I wasn't trying to cater to their, I'm bored. Oh, here you go. Here's something. I didn't want to, there again, rolling out the red carpet. Let them sit with their own thoughts for a while. Let them sit and think. Let them sit and ruminate. Don't try and fill up every second for them. So that's the only caveat with that. Anyway, I'll tell you what happened with my kids. They were like 7 or something. And my son said, I'm bored. Now, I know the way he said it because they normally wouldn't talk like that to me. Like it's so whiny. I'm bored. And I said to my son, I said, oh, my angel, my precious sweetheart, I don't want you to be bored. He already started looking scared because he knew that sarcastic tone. So I said, come with mommy. I've got my arm around him. So we go in the laundry room. I get out the bucket, fill it up with soapy water and give him a mop. He never said he was bored again. Anyway, 5 years later, his sister said, I'm bored, trying that out on mom. And then my son started laughing, and she had no idea why he was laughing. And I said, oh, my precious angel. Same thing, give her a mop and bucket. They never said they were bored again. We had enough stuff around the house that there was no reason for them to say they're bored. And it's not my job to entertain them for every single second. Do you get where I'm going with that? Again, watch that stuff. Watch that rolling out the red carpet. It's okay that they sit there for a few minutes, not being entertained by you or not having ideas. It is a great idea, but don't make it your responsibility to fill every single second and entertain them every single second. Yeah, maybe you could put in there in the board jar, maybe mopping the floor. Yeah, my kids only said it once. Toddlers who bite. I actually have a whole course on that. They're just one of my little mini niche courses. It's toddlers who bite, hit, etc. It's on my website, bratbusters.com. It goes into that in great detail, how you train them out of that. How to feel about sand play therapy. I don't quite know what you mean by that. It sounds fun, but I don't know, like you're talking about it like it's therapy. I don't know what you mean by that exactly. You're seriously my favorite to watch and hear. You're so informative. Thanks so much for that. I sometimes worry that I can be quite mean because you know what bothers me is every time I say we're not fixing kids, we're fixing you. Um, I kind of always cringe a little bit when I say that because it makes it look like I'm blaming you for how your kids are acting, but that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. Would you rather blame your children or blame yourself? Who do you love more, your kids or yourself? Whenever I was working with kids, so I always kind of feel like maybe you're going to misinterpret that or interpret it exactly how I mean it, which probably is kind of mean. But what I mean by that is every time I was working with kids and they acted out, my own kids didn't, like I got respect when they were tiny. But when I was working with kids and they acted out, I always blamed myself. I just instantly go there. I take the leadership role. That's what a leader is. You take responsibility. Like if I have staff, I've managed people before, and if they're not, you know, producing or whatever, I blame it on myself. I haven't been effective enough. I haven't given them consequences if they're not performing. So I always blame myself because I'm a leader. When I'm in charge of people, when I'm parenting, I'm the leader. If something's going wrong, I look to myself. I look in a mirror because you can only change yourself anyway. So sometimes I worry that that comes across a little bit too harsh, but it's the truth. I can't not say the truth. I have no filter. Okay, 22-month-old hitting a baby. This one I'm gonna talk about because it can damage a baby. It can hurt a baby. I'm gonna tell you a story. A friend and I, we were friends because we had little boys. We met in a play group. Then we, singled or sort of disconnected from that group as everyone separates after a while. And then we became friends. So we get together with our little boys. Now they were both 2 years old. These two little boys, mine and hers. They were very gentle, like sweet little boys. They weren't overly active. They were just both easy little boys, very, very gentle. Anyway, she had a newborn little girl, darling little newborn, and her little boy, who was like mine, very gentle and just an easy little kid, and picked the baby up behind her back, picked the baby up out of the bassinet and threw it on the floor. Brand new newborn baby girl. So my lesson here is never trust a toddler. They don't understand. They do not understand death, spinal cord injury, concussion. They just don't understand it. They're thinking, wait a minute, I thought I was just visiting that thing in the hospital, and you have the gall to bring that thing home. It stinks, it cries, takes attention away from me. That's a 22-month-old's brain. That's their world. I always say you meet them where they are, not where you think they should be. That is where they are. Imagine if someone came in. Imagine if you're married to someone. If I had a husband and he brought home another wife and said, oh, well, you're going to have to adjust to her. It's the same kind of thing. Like toddlers are very possessive of their little world, and all of a sudden someone comes in and takes over. So just keep the baby safe. That's it. That's the only advice. And then there's all sorts of other stuff online that you can look up how to help, like get them a little doll too, get them to help with the baby, but supervise them 24/7 with that baby. I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. Not that I'd throw a toddler, but you know what I'm saying. So it's just your responsibility to keep that baby safe. Okay. What do I do with a teenager who doesn't listen at all or doesn't care about getting in trouble? Okay, well, that just says they have no respect for you whatsoever. That's all that is. You got to work on that. But with young children, you get respect by disciplining. With teenagers, you don't discipline, you get respect. You got to get respect before you discipline. So the discipline comes first with younger children, but with teenagers, you got to bond with them first. You got to get some reciprocity. That's what I call it. So you get an accountability chart, which is the behavior board. You just call it the accountability chart, and you set up some rules for both of you. You say to them, I want you to put your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Let's start the negotiations. So you start to build the relationship. And then by about week 3 of doing this, then you can start to see a difference, hopefully. But you got to give respect before you get it with teenagers, especially. And the two most important, not rules, but techniques when parenting teenagers, number 1 by far is listening. You get good at listening. You listen to understand, and then you shut up. This is the hardest thing. It is almost impossible when you're learning how to do this. When they talk to you and they unload on you with something, You just listen to understand and show empathy. Yeah, I get that would be tricky. And then shut up. If they want your advice, they will ask for it. If they don't want it, they're not going to listen to it anyway. And they're not going to talk to you in the future. This opens them up. This makes them talk to you more. So you're going to get more information. Eventually, they'll start saying, what do you think I should do? I never told my kids what to do. I said, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Let's figure it out. So we'd figure it out together, okay? So you want to build that relationship. So you listen to understand. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with, okay? Listening. The second one is negotiating. You negotiate everything. Remember I just said you put them on the behavior board, call an accountability chart and say, I want you to put your dirty clothes in the hamper. Now, what do you want from me? You see, you're building reciprocity. Can't believe I say that word right. You know what word I can't say? Simultaneously. Simultaneously. I can't say it. Simultaneous. Every time I hear it, I try and say it right away. I can't say it. Also, I get mixed up with a photograph and photographer. I usually call them photographers. Not the brightest bulb. Okay. I want to know if adult kids visit enough to stay put, trying to decide to move. Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Every relationship is completely different. Simultaneously. I'm going to practice that. It's just because I wrote it down and I'm working on something and I wrote it down. And I thought, geez, it's weird to type something you can't say. Because I use it a lot in writing. Simultaneously, whatever. That's going to bug me. Okay. Can you give us a crash course on the toddler biting? Okay, I'll tell you what you do. You do consistent corrective action. So every time they bite, the first time they bite, you say no. And then you remove them or remove their head, whatever, you unpry their jaw, do whatever you got to do. And you say no. And then you watch them like a hawk. Now, this is the hard part for parents. You have to be consistent. You can't just let them bite 3 or 4 times and then you come in. And it has to be every single time. If you correct them 100 times, they're going to remember the 101st time you didn't. They just do because it's repetition. It has to be the exact same thing. So it's consistent corrective action. You say no and you remove a toy, remove the other child, remove them. You just prevent them from doing it again. So every time they go to bite, you say no, and then you make sure it doesn't happen. They will eventually learn. Some kids never bite, some kids never hit, some kids never have a tantrum, and some kids do all those things. They're all different. They're all forming differently. Simultaneously. Simultaneously. Is that it? Simultaneously. Gosh. Simultaneous. Is that right? Simultaneous or simultaneous. Could be either way, I think. Simultaneous. Oh, okay, I will look it up. Simultaneous. Some people, I'm pretty good with tongue-tied stuff like that. There was a Dr. Seuss book. I could read the whole thing through 100 times. It was all this tongue-tying stuff. I'm usually really good at it, but it's that one word. I've got another word. It's not photographer. There's another one too that I get mixed up with, but there's not many. But simultaneously. Well, I'm still young. I'm only 62. I'll learn. Okay. My 1-year-old doesn't sit down. Yeah, sounds normal to me. If you just found your feet, you'd never had them before, would you ever want to sit down? Sounds normal. So, yeah, sounds completely normal. Reward or not when no consequence all week. Oh, gosh, no. Gosh, no. That's the reward chart. Never do that. Do you know what that says? Do you know what you're doing? I have a baseline expectation. You just make good choices, be nice, be respectful, be good. That's my baseline. I don't reward for baseline. I just don't. Like, if you have a reward chart, the message you are sending to your children is this. You're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. You see, you're rewarding just baseline expectations. So you're saying they're normally rotten. A behavior board says you're normally wonderful, but if you should happen to do something rotten, I know how to deal with it. You see the difference? I don't reward baseline stuff. My son was in grade 2 and his teacher called me on her lunch hour and she said, what was her name? Can't remember. Anyway, and so she called me on her lunch hour and she goes, this was so cute. She said to my son, who was in grade 2, why are you so nice? And he said, he looked up as serious as anything and he goes, Mommy makes us be nice. Like he had no choice in the matter whatsoever. And I'm like, you're darn right. Teachers love my kids because I did a good job at home. So I sent really easy kids to school. And you know what was kind of unfair about it, but I understand, is because my kids were so easy and well behaved. Sorry, I got something popped up on my screen for no reason at all. Anyway, they always sandwiched them between the difficult kids to keep those kids separated. So whenever there was a kid that was really disruptive or nasty or whatever, my kids always were stuck right beside them every single time. And that's what they did. And there was even a meeting about that. Because I was always in the school council meeting things. And there was even a meeting about that. And one of the other moms complained about it, whereas I never complained about school because I figured it's not, I stay out of my lane. I let school run school, right? So this other mom said, my kid's just a really passive little kid. And all you ever do is put them beside the violent kids. And they said, it's just what we have to do because if we put violent kids beside each other, they'll kill each other. So, but yeah, that's it's kind of unfair. Like I thought maybe I should have sent violent kids to school too, so it wouldn't be treated like that. But yeah, that's the only negative to having well-behaved kids was they always got beside the kids that weren't. Okay. Can you give any tips with my just turned 13-year-old boy's attitude and hiding emotions? You don't address attitude ever. They just got testosterone flying, right? They're probably walking around with a Woody everywhere. I mean, it's just frustrating for them. It's so, testosterone is taking over brain cells. Anyway, the way that you get boys especially to talk, and they do start to shut down emotionally because that's just what boys do. Men just don't tend to have, what is it? Women have 44,000 words they need to use a day and men have 4. My daughter's fiance says he's very grateful that I see my daughter every day because she uses up most of the words on me, so he doesn't get them. Anyway, so it's just really normal. The way that you get them to open up is you perfect your listening skills. You become a really good listener and you listen to understand and then shut up. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. My son was 15 and he said to me, he says, you've been a really difficult mom. And I was shocked. And I said, what? I thought it was great because we'd always been super close and laughing all the time. And I said, why? And he goes, because I've got nothing to rebel against. You're too easy. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. And I thought, ooh, what a crime. Anyway, I didn't say that, but I said, okay, fine, go clean your room. And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. But yeah, easy to talk to. That was important. That's why he told me everything. He didn't know how not to, because if you've got a really safe place to land that you're not going to be lectured or judged, you're going to talk. So yeah, listen to understand and then shut up. Yeah, how hard do you think that was for me to do? Take a guess. I never told my kids what to do. How hard do you think that was for me to listen, to understand and show empathy and then shut up? You've heard me talk. That's all I ever do on here. How hard do you think that was? You know why I did it? Because it works. It was hard. It was really hard. Oh, thank you. I just feel attitude is disrespect a lot. Not always. Attitude is also often built up, you know what? Built up frustration, built up whatever. And if they're going to disrespect anybody and take it on anyone, it's better you than the teacher, right? So just attitude. If they're rude, that's different. But if they're just kind of like, whatever, just like that, I would never address that. Never. I remember when my son, he was 14 and we were like best buddies, giggling all the time, jumping out and scaring each other. We're goofy best friends. Anyway, every single morning he was at the kitchen sink. He was always at that kitchen sink before I was. And he had his back to me as I'm coming downstairs. And I said every single morning, morning, sweetie. And he'd go, morning, mom, because his voice was cracking. And then one morning, and I could see he was starting to change, getting whiskers and that. He was 15 at this point. And I said, morning, sweetie. And he turned around and went, morning, mom. And he was just, his whole face looked different. He was just, testosterone, hormones flying. He was just becoming a man, basically. It was quite the shock. Where's my little boy gone? Where is the line between rude and just frustration bottled up? Okay. If you have to ask, then assume it's just frustration. Here's the thing. If you think you can address rudeness, can you let me know how it goes? Because I've never, ever, ever in a million years ever found out how to address that, nor would I even attempt to. I work on the relationship once they respect you and they don't want to disappoint you. Teenagers don't want to please you. You don't want them to want to please you like you do with little kids as their leader. You do. You want young children to want to please you. When they're teenagers, that's ridiculous. You just want them to want to please themselves and make good choices and not want to disappoint you. That solves the rudeness. So you set yourself up as a really calm leader, and you're there for backup though. You let them lead their own lives for the most part because they just have to. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it behind your back or in front of you. But yeah, if you're not sure, then just treat it as just ignore it. Just ignore it. And if you do figure out how to tell a kid, not a teenager who doesn't respect you, to not be rude, can you let me know how that's done? Because I've never heard of it ever. And I'm hired. I specialize in troubled teenagers. That's how I started my business, Teens in Crisis, and because I mentored troubled teens. So that's how I started my business. Parents every single time are frustrated with me, and I know it. I'm used to it. I've been doing this for like 17 years now. The reason is they have this big problem they want to solve. He's not going to school. He's stealing, he's doing this. And I say, okay, so let's work on his laundry. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I say, well, we can't go there. We got to go one step at a time. I got to teach you how to do this before we handle the big stuff, right? You start with the small stuff and practice. You're building a relationship. You're building trust. You're building reciprocity. You're giving to get. You're learning how to be a good listener. You're learning how to negotiate. Then you can handle the stealing. But we can't go there yet. We've got to learn some skills first. We're teaching you how to do this. Okay. I'm scared that if I don't help my 5-year-old with listening skills, it will get worse as she gets older. You're blaming her. Blame yourself instead. You haven't learned how to talk so they will listen. It's about, you're not a leader. If they're not listening to you, you're not a leader. Kids listen to leaders. They just do. You know what's funny is I think I mentioned this yesterday. My ex-husband, we separated 20 years ago. Anyway, he sent over some video clips of the kids when they were little. And because I talk about them so much when they were little and how I parented, but really I don't talk a lot about how I parented because there was really no discipline. I got respect when they were tiny. It was all the other hundreds of kids I worked with. They're the ones that I learned all this from. That's how I learned it. And then I had to figure out how to put this into a home. So like into the home life. But yeah, my kids respected me from a very young age. I was very much the leader. And if they ever got out of hand with dad, he would just say, do you want me to tell mom? And that would all he had to say. I was the leader. I never really did anything. But anyway, he sent these little clips and I have it in my head that they were obedient little soldiers from the way I talk about it on here. They were loud. They were really loud. It was just a lot of laughter, a lot of loud talking. I'm very loud. So just loud. It was a very loud, fun household. It was not a military style thing at all. I got respect when they were little, so they never got out of line. Why would they? They loved having a fun, goofy mom. They loved a happy household. So why would they ever step a toe out of line? Why would they ever be rude or mean or anything? They had no reason to be because the reward was we had such a happy, loud household. They loved it. But I'll tell you, if they ever did step out of line, I would instantly go, excuse me? And, oh, sorry, mom. You know, like it was just that quick. They would be almost embarrassed. They would apologize instantly. So you don't want obedient little soldiers. You want mutual respect, but you're still in charge. You're still the leader. That's important. They need, crave, and want that. If you don't want to just be buddies with them, I was mom before I was anything else, but we were best friends. It was a very goofy, fun household. But yeah, if you're not a leader for your children, they will go out in search of it. They need, crave, and want a leader. If you don't provide that, they're going to go out searching for it. They're going to find a leader in their peers. That makes them very susceptible to peer pressure. If you're not a leader, they're going to look for a leader in their peers. The drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians, they're going to go searching for a leader. It's a natural instinct to look for a leader. So you want it to be you, not the outside world, right? Does that make sense? This is kindness. Yeah, I was looking at these videos and I thought, But didn't the neighbors say anything for the loudness? We weren't screaming. It was just a lot of laughter, a lot of always trying to out-talk each other. We always thought we were the funniest one in the room, especially my son and I. So we were always trying to outdo each other. So yeah, it wasn't banging loud. It was just a lot of laughter, a lot of, like in the pool. I know the neighbors used to say, all it is nonstop laughing the whole time you guys are all in the pool. So yeah, it was just like laughter. And I come from a very loud family. My mom was very loud. My aunt and my cousins were very loud. It was very competitive with trying to be out funny each other. So yeah, it was just I was raised with a lot of humor and loudness. So it's just loud talking and laughing. Okay. So no, neighbors didn't. They only said when you guys were in the pool, it was pretty loud. Oh, mouth is dry. By the way, if you're new here, my website is bratbusters.com. You can download my free behavior board. I just corrected something on there. Someone said, I didn't understand this. So I explained it. And they come back and they goes, I still don't understand it. So I thought, well, maybe I should go into it. And I looked at it. I didn't understand what I'd written. Thought, what the heck was I saying? So I fixed it up, hopefully. And then they came back. I just saw that they sent me an actual email, I think. It was an email or another, I don't know what it was. Anyway, it wasn't just a comment on the behavior board. And they still don't understand it. So yeah, I'm having a hard time communicating that one thing. Okay. 8-year-old pushing boundaries, especially when safety is involved. Not sure how to help. I don't quite know what you mean. Pushing boundaries so he goes out without a helmet on his bike. It's a consequence. So, you know, you got to find the balance too, because a lot of parents they get the discipline right, but then they don't mix it with fun. So let's say you've got your kid has 24-hour media blackout. You got to be fun too, because you got to meet their needs. Their needs are fun. They need to have a good relationship with you. So let's say you've got your kid has 24-hour media blackout. You do it with them and you say, hey, do you want to play a game? We got no screens. How about we play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, fine. Walk away. When they calm down an hour later, you ready for that game yet? You're always trying to engage with them. You're always trying to build that happy relationship with your kids. It's a lot of fun. One of my favorite things was I was the panty monster. Every time I did the laundry, I shoved all the panties on my head, and the leg holes were my eye holes. And I'd say, watch out, panty monsters coming, and I'd chase them around the house. I think my son was 18, and he said, God, enough with the panties, Mom. I still thought it was funny, but evidently I wasn't so funny anymore. But yeah, you want to have fun with your kids. What's the point in having them, right? Parents say don't go there and they go further. Do they not know not to go there? Like, what I mean is, well, I don't know the age and I don't know where they're going. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit. And if I don't get to your question, if you could repeat it and in whole, because I get dizzy when I scroll backwards. I can't always find the first part. Because sometimes I'll say, well, what's the age? And then like 20 questions later, I see a 5, but I can't find the question. You know what I mean? Oh, they know it's unsafe, but they do it anyway. So they're the evil Knievels. Yeah, just have a consequence. Say, you can choose to try and do that if you want, but I'll stop you, and then there'll be a consequence. He's 8. You can understand that. Just there has to be accountability there. If they're never accountable, they don't do stuff like that if they don't understand there's going to be a consequence. For example, would you pay rent if you knew there'd never be a consequence for ever never paying rent? You could live there forever. Would you pay car insurance if you never had to pay car insurance and you'd be covered anyway? You see what I mean? There's a consequence to keep us on the right track. There just is. Would you speed down the freeway if you thought you could never get a ticket? Probably, right? That you have to teach the children how to be accountable. Consequences is how you do that. It's exactly how you do. Like whenever I see someone arguing a parking ticket, I was only in for 2 minutes. You're still illegally parking. They'll park in a loading zone. In a bus, I've seen them park at bus stops. I just had to run in for a minute, like me, entitled, entitled, entitled. I always think I know exactly how they were raised. No accountability whatsoever. Me. So they weren't raised to be accountable. And you want to raise kids who are accountable. Yeah, the respect and discipline. At 8 years old, you are disciplining your 8-year-old to get respect. You're going to follow through. Just saying, and plus, I don't repeat myself. If I said to a kid, "You're putting your helmet on. If you're going to get in the bike, you're going to put your helmet on." So they ran for the bike. They're 8 years old. They ran for the bike and they went for it. I would, if I couldn't catch them, there's nothing you can do. But I would take the bike away and I'd say, "Okay, that goes away for a couple of days now. Do you understand?" I would do it like that. Like there's no way I would repeat myself. It's just no way. I said, "Put your helmet on." No, I said, "If you don't put your helmet on," blah, blah, it's like, put your helmet on, and they say no, consequences right then. There's no way I would repeat that. If you do it, if you don't listen now, that's that countdown, like you're just giving them warning after warning, but you're never going to discipline. It's like, make sure they understand what the rule is. And then as soon as they break it, bang, consequence, bite goes away. Something like that. But yeah, you're just not quick enough. You're probably just going on and on and on, and they're just tuning you out. Do you believe in the cried out for toddlers? My 2-year-old ends up in our bed every night. Yeah, that's that bedtime stuff. No, at 2 years old, if they're in a cot, are they in a crib or are they out of the crib and they have toddler bed? I would just make them keep putting them back in their own bed. There's a whole method towards that. I actually have that. If you look in bedtime battles, just go Bratbusters bedtime battles. I'll explain it all. It's a bedtime battle, and I'll explain exactly how you do it. That's one of those things that can be solved in one night. Might not be, but it can be. Frequently with clients, it's solved in one night. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Bridget, but I'm going to guess. You answered, Vicky, and you said, "I don't like cried out. I prefer the chair method," which did work a lot, but now he's... I want to see what you finished saying. I'm going to guess here, and I could be wrong. The chair method, is that when you sit beside them, but you don't get in bed with them and they can hold your hand or something? But I wouldn't let them climb in. I would do that with a baby. I wouldn't do that with a 2-year-old. And the reason it wouldn't work with a 2-year-old, it's kind of a half-butted attempt. And they kind of, I don't know, it's just not strong enough for a 2-year-old. I would do that with like a 12-month-old or a 16-month-old, not a 2-year-old. Yeah, I love the examples about the rent and car insurance. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Don't we all learn about accountability through consequences? You know what? If you run across the street without looking both ways, you might get flattened by a semi-trailer. Would you ever look if you knew everything was going to stop for you everywhere you went? You get it? Like if we don't teach this to our children, that's why I think a lot of kids get into drugs and all sorts of problems. They haven't learned any consequences. They haven't learned to be responsible for their actions. They just don't get it. That's where I see all these problems coming from. That's why this leadership stuff, by the way, if you're going to take advice from someone, they have to have had experience with teenagers, because that's where all of your mistakes show up. Everything you've done in the early years could be working, but all those mistakes escalate and grow and puff up, and they show up in the teen years. That's where you see, if I see a relationship that's not very good with a teen and a parent, I pretty much know what they were doing beforehand, because I know where it's headed. I know I work backwards. I specialize in teenagers, and I work backwards how to make those years easy, and everything before that easy too. But you see, if you're going to take advice from someone, they have to have experience with teenagers. Two things: they have to have finished the job with their own kids, so they've lived with teenagers. Then they've had to have worked with hundreds of kids, because with all sorts of challenges, they might have just had super easy kids that didn't need any discipline. My daughter was like that. She never would have needed any discipline. What I gave her was fortitude and confidence, and because she probably would have been very shy, and she's not shy. So I gave her that, I think, her social skills. Brought her out of her shell, because she was a pleaser. Do kids really learn by making messes? I was always told they learn by playing and making messes. They learn through fun. Okay, it doesn't matter if they're making a mess or not. They learn because I'm very fussy. So I allowed messes, but they were very contained. Like you sit at the kitchen table and paint. There's nowhere else. If you get up from the table, everything gets put away. You sit at the kitchen table and you play with Play-Doh, which I'm going to make, and we're going to play all afternoon on that. So I didn't allow messes. They could make a contained mess, but they learn through fun, however that is. They learn through fun. That's how they learn. That's why I was the fun mom, because they listen to you. Boy, if you're fun, they listen. They just do. I didn't learn this with my own kids. I learned all this with everyone else's kids. I started volunteering in daycare centers 51 years ago. I was 11 years old. So I'm 62 now. And I started volunteering in daycare centers. And they always threw the difficult kids my way. And they kept saying, how do you get respect? And they just follow you around everywhere. I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't know, but I was fun. Also, if they did something naughty or whatever, I corrected it. I said, I didn't like that. So I'm not going to be fun for a whole minute now. Do you understand? And they go, oh, there's a consequence. Lisa knows how to hand out consequences, but I want fun Lisa back, so I'm going to be good. That's all it was. It was that easy. It was that easy. How do I go about my kids answering back? That's just a product of your parenting. That's all that is. They do not talk back if they respect you. So work on your leadership skills. That's all that I teach parenting. We're never fixing kids. We're fixing ourselves. We can only fix ourselves anyway. When you're a leader, they don't talk back. They just don't. If my kids had ever talked back to me, I swear I would have probably fallen off my feet. I mean, it just didn't happen. So, because they respected me, but I respected them too. It was mutual. Was it perfect? No, but they were never cheeky. The only thing I used to say to them, look, if you ever feel, when I'm laying down the law and we're rushing somewhere, and I said, when I'm laying down the law, never question me. But afterwards, you can say, by the way, I didn't like what you did. Anyway, I remember one time particularly, my son was young, and he was probably 5 or 6. And we were rushing around, and I was being impatient. I had a baby, and I had him, and we're running somewhere. So anyway, and he looked at me funny in the rearview mirror in the car, and I knew exactly what he was going to do. He was waiting until we got home, and he says, Mommy, and I'm like, yes. And he goes, I think you were a little bit rough on me. I was trying my best, but you were getting frustrated. And I said, I know. So then I ended up taking him to a water slide park or something. Like I made it up to him. So they're always allowed to have a voice, but just when you're laying down the law, I used to say, don't interrupt me because I got stuff to do. I'm an adult. There's just certain things we got to get done. But yeah, so they have a voice, but it's not rude, right? They can always say, so then I make amends. Had to make amends. Oh, and they love that. Throughout the years, every time I got impatient or something, my son and daughter would look at each other like this because they knew I'd be making amends. They'd be getting something off me. And I go, shoot. Do you ever smack? I did spank my kids when they were little. I think I spanked my son a couple times and my daughter once. And do I regret it? No, I messed up. Now I consider that a mistake. I made mistakes. I just lost it. And yeah. Was it good to do? No. Do I defend it? No. I made a mistake. Not perfect. That isn't true. It's normal for kids to push and question. Push? What do you mean push? If you're fair and reasonable, that just doesn't happen. So I don't know what you mean by that. Once they're about 3.5, they understand you're fair and reasonable. So what have they got? You don't give them anything to push against. It's fair and reasonable. So I don't know what you mean. Yeah, don't know what you mean by that. I've got some questions here on YouTube. I'm usually on TikTok, right? So, okay. Katie, advice on 4-year-old who is starting to lie. He says he did his sister when he didn't. Okay, so he's lying. So I would put that on the behavior board. Use my behavior board. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com, which is in my description somewhere up there too. And just put no lying. And then you say, I will decide when you're lying. You have to put that in brackets. So then you decide when he's lying, and you usually know anyway. Said, look, you just lied. No, I didn't. I've decided you've lied. Remember the behavior board. So here's the consequence for that, and just make it happen. They eventually learn. Kids past the age of 3 to 3 3/4 generally only do what works. If lying works, he'll keep doing it. If it doesn't work, he'll stop. They're not like us. We're stupid. We keep doing the same things. Like I know I do it all the time. I do the same thing expecting different results. I don't know why, but I mean, we're habitual. We just have our own, like we have our baggage. We have our own just habits and everything throughout the years. Kids don't have that yet. They're still forming. They're still trying things out. So yeah, they only do what works. So make sure lying never works. What do you do when they run to a street? You mean if they're runners and they're little, I'd put them on a leash and they have to earn their freedom. So if they're going to run, I'd much rather them being on a leash than being flattened by a semi-trailer. I mean, you buckle them into a car seat, so you restrain them there. Why not restrain them when you're out in the street? So yeah. And then what I do is I go to a safe place and I'd let them off the leash and I'd say leash, restraint, harness, whatever you want to call it. I'd let them off and I say, now you don't run away. As soon as they start to run away, clip, they're right back in for the rest of that time. Don't keep letting them off and on and off and on and off and on for that rest. And then the next day you might go to the park again or wherever it is that's safe, try it again. But they will eventually learn. Remember, they only do what works. And little ones kind of only do what works, but that takes repetition, consistent corrective actions. It takes a long time for them to learn. It's not words, it's actions. It's not words at all. The words are all for you. It's not for your toddler. Even older kids, like once I've laid down the law, I wouldn't explain myself. I don't think, like if my kids didn't do this, but if I'm working with kids and I say, look, if you do that, then this will happen. I will stop doing that with you for 5 minutes. Do you understand? But why? But why? Well, if you don't understand that, you'll soon understand once it's done, won't you? You know, like you'll know next time. So I don't over explain. They play dumb to try and manipulate you, but I'm manipulatable, whatever. And if you show anger, they're winning. Leaders don't get angry. You discipline, I was crazy. I was all heart emotions. I'm very emotional. I talk a lot. I laugh a lot. I'm just highly emotional. And, but I don't really have a temper. But my mom always used to say, you were just a really happy-go-lucky kid. Yeah, I kind of went through my moods in the teen years especially, but basically I'm a really happy person. So what the heck was my point? What were we just talking about? I can't remember now. Shoot, it wasn't just about me. It was about kids. I can't remember now. Oh, I know. So I led parenting with my heart. It was all very affectionate, very goofy with the kids. But if they needed discipline, when it was all business, that was all head, no heart. Like it's just a business transaction. You don't bring emotions into discipline. The rest of the time you can be highly emotional, fun. All the emotions, all the positive emotions can be worn on your sleeve, worn on your, it's great. But as soon as they need discipline, like I was a real goofy, emotional mom all over my kids, very demonstrative. But if they ever stepped out of line, I'd say, I didn't like that. And then I'll tell you what you're going to be doing then. Okay. And it got real quiet and they didn't like it. So why would they ever act out? They love crazy, emotional mom. And then discipline was all serious. They didn't like that. So that's why they always went towards the light. They liked a happy household. Here's the thing though, if you're moody and angry, and if you have that basic personality, there's not as much reward for them for being good, right? It's easier if you're happy-go-lucky and you have fun with them. It's easier for them to see the light. But if they don't see the light even when they're good, it gets blurred. They get confused by moody parents. It throws them off. They don't know what to expect. They're like, what did I do? Because they take everything on as their fault. So if you're moody and have a temper, that's all their fault. In their minds, it's all because of them. And it's very confusing for children. So that's the exact definition of insanity. Of course, doing the same thing, expecting different results. I'm insane, for sure. I do that all the time. It's not with everything, but with certain things, just stupid. What was it the other day? I did it again. I'm like, what? Why do I keep doing this? But yeah, insanity. Yes, we have a monkey backpack harness. They're amazing. Yeah, they'll learn. I find it hard to separate. I always get emotionally involved when my son acts up. Here's the thing. I started volunteering. I think I was kind of born to do this anyway. Why would an 11-year-old little girl volunteer in daycare centers after school? Like, I loved it. I was there every day. Anyway, so the thing is that I learned at a very young age, the calmer you are when you're disciplining, the better it works. They didn't like calm, boring, quiet Lisa. They wanted fun, exciting Lisa. So they learned like that fast. I started babysitting when I was 11 too. And daycare center, 11 years. I was like this little mother. Anyway, but yeah, I know it's hard, but fake it till you make it. It's just part of the thing. After about 3 weeks, if you really work on this, you work to get respect. Once you've got it, it's easy. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it's easy. Takes about 3 weeks. Use my behavior board if you have kids 3 and over. If not, just do consistent corrective actions. Pick one bad behavior per week that you want to work on. And it's consistent corrective actions, because toddlers learn through repetition. Child-proof your whole house to make your life as easy as possible, like I did, so you never even have to say no to a toddler. There was nothing my kids could have got into around the house, nothing. The only thing they weren't allowed to do was pick up the dog, ever. I'm very fussy about my animals. Like, I like them well treated. So what if a toddler tried to pick up a dog and dropped it? Like, I just think that'd be horrible. That was the only thing I ever had to say no to them, and they learned really, really quickly. But yeah, just fake it till you make it. And it's 3 weeks, you'll start to see a difference. So it gets easier. And it's interesting, parents say this to me every day. I get this with coaching, and they'll say, but how do I control my emotions? And I say, you're asking me to control your kids, and yet you can't control yourselves. Like, if you can't get control of yourself, how on earth are you going to get control of your kids? So you just have to fake it till you make it. How do I become fun? LOL. Yeah, I mean, I do like being around kids, so I had a real edge that way, because obviously that's why I teach this. That was the most fun I ever had in my whole life, was parenting. I miss it. I'm too old to go back to it, but I mean, that was the most fun. Laughter every single day, laughing, like goofy laughing every single day. And I love that stuff. So, but fun comes, that's why I don't talk about that a lot, because we all have different styles. I am very goofy. Okay. I have no pride, no dignity or anything. I'm extremely goofy. So I love, interacting with kids. I just think I know how to make them laugh. I understand them. And, anyway, but fun comes in different forms. I remember years ago, I had this client, and she asked me, how were you fun? And I said, well, I did a lot of magic tricks. We did a lot of acting out, silly stuff, like real goofy stuff. And she goes, that's not me at all. And I said, okay, but what she was good at was telling stories. So that was her fun. My fun is gregarious, laugh, like jokes and hiding under the kids and stuff like that. Hers was storytelling. She was the most phenomenal storyteller. And she told me a story. I said, well, tell me a story. She made up a story about me, put me in a story. And I was like, I was in awe. Like, so, there's all different types of fun. Another one was music. Another was dancing. Another was playing sports with your kids. Find your own fun. We're all different, right? So fun comes in all different forms. I feel like I'm always correcting. If you're always disciplining, you're missing something. You gotta look for opportunities. When I was working with kids, they were difficult. I was never handed an easy kid. Not one teacher, parent, principal, police officer, not one of them ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. Not once. They always handed me the really challenging kids. I had to, like, precision find something to like about them and just dive on it. Anytime they did anything good, I just dove on that. And the bad stuff, I got real quiet when they did something naughty, but I dove on the good. I put my energy toward the good child, not the bad child. I addressed the bad stuff, but I put my energy, my focus on the good kid. Bring out the best in them. If you're always focusing on the worst, there's no best to even see. They're just going to be worst. It'll become their identity. So yeah, I had to hyper focus to find something good. I could tell you story after story about things that I went through with kids, trying to find something I could like. Some of them were really challenging. I even said to one teenager, I said, I got to find something to like, and you're just repulsive. I can't find anything. And then they laughed, and I said, I like that. So I kind of knew that's where it was going, but you gotta use that stuff with a grain of salt, because I kind of understood this kid anyway. But yeah, you gotta find the good in them. If you don't find the good, then they're not going to be good for you. You got to bring it out in them. Were you parented this way as a child too? No, yes and no. Yes, in that I really looked up to my mom. My dad was the pleaser. My mom was she wasn't the authority. She was the leader. She had a look. This was my mom's look. If I did anything she didn't like, this was what I saw. I hated my mom's disapproval. She never even did anything. And I was the same. So we both had that. But I got away with a lot more. My dad spoiled me. So I got away with a lot more when my mom wasn't around. And so yeah, they didn't discipline me as much as I disciplined my kids. But very much the leadership. I told my mom everything. My dad died when I was younger, unfortunately. He was great, but I mean, he died when I was younger. But I told my mom everything. She was a safe place to land. She never told me what to do. Every time I went to her with a problem, I learned this from her. I did this with my kids. Every time I went to her with a problem, she'd say, well, I don't know. You can figure it out. And then we'd talk about it. And I always thought I was solving all my own problems, but I'm sure she was sort of guiding me in the right direction. So she gave me a lot of confidence, and she didn't try and pave the way and make life easy for me. Also, she adored me, but she didn't see me through rose-colored glasses like my dad did. My dad couldn't see any flaws in me, and that was his flaw. Just thought I was perfect. But my mom, she adored me just as much as my dad did, but she knew my flaws, and I was like that with my kids. I knew the good, I knew everything about them. I didn't think they were perfect, nor should you be. We don't need to be perfect. But yeah, it was similar. I always had that safe place to land. And plus, I was never yelled at, and I never yelled at my kids. So I'd never been yelled at my whole life. My parents never yelled at me. Not once. They were calm. My mom was a calm leader. My husband is a goofy one, but he's too much of a friend. My mom was, yeah, she was visiting us. My kids are raised in Australia, and my mom's from Canada. We lived in Canada when I was growing up. Anyway, she was visiting, and she said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "What?" And I had underpants on my head. I was the panty monster chasing the kids around the house. She goes, "How you're so goofy, but they just respect the heck out of you." And I said, I didn't really know how to explain it, but now I understand. You've got to mix the fun with the discipline. You've got to have a happy household. You got to meet their needs and manage their wants. Managing their wants is the discipline. But if you're not meeting their needs, which is fun, bonding, making them feel good about themselves, the discipline kind of just doesn't work. So you got to meet their needs. They need to feel like they're good people, like you enjoy being around them. That's why your discipline on that behavior board is often play with them for 30 minutes. If you yell, you have to play with them for 30 minutes, anything they want. So you see you're bonding with them. So yeah. So my mom wasn't goofy at all. She was very witty. She was better when you were growing up. But as a little one, she was not the least bit goofy. My dad was the one playing horsey with me, teaching the kids how to ride bikes. My mom was not like that at all. But she was very much the leader. I was the goofy one and the leader. But my ex-husband, he was still a really good dad. I was very much the leader, though. And he was fun, but he wasn't goofy. Not to say that you need to be at all. I couldn't imagine a world full of me. It's goofy. Well, I'll show you something I do. The other day I had something in my hand, and there was this little toddler on the elevator in my building, and they were looking at me. So the parents looked away. So this is a sign of what I do with kids. And I just thought if the parents had seen me, they would have probably called the police on me. Just like, what a nutcase. Anyway, so the parents weren't looking at me, and the toddler was looking at me from the stroller. So I turned around and I went like this. I had this thing in my hand, and I turned around like that. And I just looked at the kid like that, and they were just enthralled. They were just like, that's how you get their attention. You enter their world. So yeah, so every time I saw the kid in the elevator, they're always looking up, and the parent says, "Oh, he just loves you." They couldn't figure out why, just because I shoved something up my nose. I know how to get a kid's attention, but they were too young to tell the parent what I'd done. So. Okay, how do I not conflate that with a child being a child? What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean by that. Being goofy is not being childish. Being goofy. Yeah, I don't like to talk about that a lot. It's almost like that's my world with kids. It's almost kind of embarrassing because I'm so goofy around kids, and yet adults never see that. I don't show that around adults as much. I'm always the giggler, but I'm still don't show that real goofiness with kids because kids just gobble that up, right? They just love all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to get going. Yeah, oh gosh, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I have to go. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. My website's bratbusters.com. You can hire me on there. You can buy one of my courses, or you can download my free behavior board. That teaches you how to give respect to get it, because you're on there too. That's the important thing. You have to be accountable for your kids. They see you're accountable, then they're more likely to be accountable. You lead, they will follow. It's just what happens. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow. Take care.